It's Thursday, April 29th, and it's time for your Barbados Today News Update. The Pan American Health Organization is readying itself to receive the second shipment of COVID-19 vaccines under the COVAX facility on behalf of countries in the Americas. Word of this from the organization's director, Dr. Carissa Etienne, who said COVAX procured doses are expected between May and June.
As of this week, more than 317 million COVID vaccine doses have been administered across 49 countries and territories in our region. Of these, nearly 7 million have been purchased via COVAX, and another 470,000 are en route to some of our countries. In the next few weeks, countries should receive their second COVAX shipments. And while doses remain limited, most countries should see a considerable increase in doses from the first wave. Based on the allocation criteria established by the COVAX facility, 9 countries in our region are starting the second deployment, to be followed by others in the same sequence as for the first deployment. Nearly 7 million COVID vaccines will be arriving in these countries between May and June.
Dr. Etienne also gave Latin America and Caribbean countries high marks for their distribution of limited COVID-19 vaccines.
While vaccination plans differ by country, most have done a great job following WHO and PAHO recommendations at prioritizing early doses for health workers and others on the front lines and saving thousands of lives, protecting the elderly and persons with underlying conditions. In anticipation of the arrival of COVID vaccines, many countries in our region invested in their cold chain equipment and capacity. Today, we are seeing these improvements pay off as deliveries have been quickly put to use, even for vaccines requiring ultra-low refrigeration. As deliveries pick up pace, our cold chains and supply chains will be tested further, but they are ready for that challenge.
Government is taking steps to transition the sugarcane industry from one of bulk sugar production to a value chain industry. Word of this from Minister of Agriculture and Food Security in Daware during Wednesday's handover of a new Chinese-made sugarcane harvester by the Chinese embassy. He said that the sugar industry is in the midst of a restructuring that will see it grow considerably to benefit all Barbadians.
The sugar industry in Barbados, as you know it, has been for many years operating at substantial loss to government. Government subsidies have continued to increase whilst we try to grapple with the changes that are necessary to transform the sugar industry. The sugar industry in Barbados can no longer go on as a bulk producer for sugar that is exported at substantial losses to the BAMC. To that extent, the government is moving to transition the industry from one of bulk sugar production to a value chain industry. Therefore, going forward, the industry will no longer be producing bulk sugar for export, but has already started the process of transformation by producing sugar for domestic consumption and sugar for export for direct consumption in the international markets.
Minister Ware also disclosed that a new government entity, the Barbados Energy and Sugar Company, has already been given the green light to take charge of the sugarcane industry with an aim of giving Barbadians the ability to become shareholders.
Barbados is now poised to transform the sugar industry into a sugarcane industry with a focus on value chain development, going from sugar production, reduce production for domestic consumption, giving Barbadians the opportunity to use its own sugar rather than focus on total imported sugar, and at the same time provide the rum industry with the premium side of the industry benefiting from local molasses. This transformation also will result in the BAMC earning more for sugar and molasses, whilst we also look at the value chain development taking us to renewable energy, where by 2025, we should see the BAMC becoming a profitable entity with stakeholders involved and the ordinary people of Barbados given the opportunity to purchase shares in the BAMC. This new entity will be called BESCO and is already a work in progress, and we should start to see changes taking place in the industry so that all Barbadians will benefit from our sugar industry.
There is optimism that the cruise industry could make a strong comeback by next year. It has come from President and Chief Executive Officer of Royal Caribbean International, Michael Bailey, who is basing it primarily on current bookings and the continued rollout of COVID-19 vaccines globally. In fact, the head of the region's #1 ranked cruise line, in a one-on-one discussion on COVID-19 lessons with the Caribbean Tourism Organization, said he would not be surprised if 2022 goes down in history as one of the biggest for travel.
We are very encouraged with what we see with the vaccines. We have entered into constructive conversations with the CDC in the United States, which is a very important health authority for us because a vast amount of our operations come from the ports in the US. And that constructive dialogue gives us a lot of hope for the future. And our customers, who we've been surveying every single month from the beginning of the pandemic, from March of last year, every month we survey consumers and we ask them a whole series of questions about how they see the future, how they feel about COVID, how they think about their lives, how they think about vacations, how they think about travel. And in the past few months, those survey results have turned incredibly positive. People do believe that the worst is behind us. People do believe that this is coming to an end. People do believe that they're very excited to travel in the future. There's a lot of positive data that we're gathering from consumers.
And now for your daily COVID-19 update. 7 new positive COVID-19 cases were recorded on Tuesday. The 3 females and 4 males were identified from among the 317 tests conducted by the Best dos Santos Public Health Laboratory. At the same time, 9 people recovered from the virus and were discharged. There are currently 96 people in isolation. So far, the country has recorded 3,838 cases of the virus, comprising of 1,817 females and 1,968 males.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from the region, Guyana records 2 more COVID-19 related deaths and over 130 new cases of the virus in a 24-hour period. Gordon Mosley of News Source Guyana has that report.
While the government is still to confirm the presence of one of the fastest spreading COVID-19 variants in Guyana, it is now grappling with an increase in daily infections and deaths. In the past 24 hours, 2 more deaths and 137 new cases were recorded. The death toll has now climbed to 293. A total of 60 deaths have been recorded so far in this month of April. This evening, there are more than 80 persons hospitalized with the virus, and another 1,505 persons who tested positive are in home isolation. The Health Ministry has found itself reminding citizens daily that the COVID-19 guidelines are still in place and will likely be in place for a long time unless the country curbs the spread of the virus. The Health Minister today said persons need to wear their mask and practice all other safety guidelines to protect themselves.
Well, we have to educate, and I suppose by doing that, eventually the message would get across to people.
On the international front, some neighboring countries in South Asia have seen their own surges in COVID-19 cases as India continues to struggle with an uptick in cases. More in this report from CNN.
Fueled in part by the devastating second wave burning through India, the number of global cases of COVID-19 has been on the rise for 9 consecutive weeks. As you can see on this map of cumulative COVID-19 cases by Johns Hopkins University, India is not the only place in Asia hit hard. Cases are spiking in neighboring Nepal. The border city of Nepalganj has become a COVID-19 hotspot. Local lockdowns have been imposed in cities including Kathmandu, and there have been reports that tourists at Mount Everest base camp were infected, but the Nepalese government has denied this. Other neighbors are not taking any chances. Pakistan has deployed the army in 16 cities to enforce pandemic safety protocols. Bangladesh has imposed a strict lockdown. On Monday, it sealed its border with India for 14 days. The trade will continue. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka is bracing for a third wave of infection. Local media report that all ICU beds in hospitals are full after Sri Lanka detected a new variant over the weekend. And starting Wednesday, schools across the country will close. Residents in designated areas are required to remain indoors, and a police curfew is enforced.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.